Hey, all you songbirds. Thanks for tuning in this week to Tail Feather, powered by Liars Non-Alcoholic, with me, Nick Crutchfield, your host. This week, we will be talking about functional beverages. Now, I do want to do a four-video or four-message for this episode because it's a touchy subject for a lot of people in non-alcoholic. There are many different spaces and many different types of sobriety, Cali sober, not sober, so forth. I think I hear soberish most nowadays. Um, my job here is to make sure that we have knowledge of better options when we are out to make inclusive hospitality a thing. So this information that you'll find through the rest of this episode will be solely focused on the functional beverage space. We won't talk into alcohol. We won't talk into non-alc, but so much. Hope you enjoy. It was a really fun episode, and we'll see you in just a few moments. Hope you enjoy it.
Alexa, show me how to make a cocktail without alcohol.
Sure.
Hey, all you songbirds out there. Thanks for joining Tail Feather this week. I'm Nick Crutchfield, your host. We've got a wonderful, wonderful guest on the episode today. You're listening to episode 8 in season 1. I've got the one and the only Mr. Lucas Plant. Wave hi, Lucas.
Hello.
Yeah, Lucas, he's such a good dude. We've known each other for a number of years, and I respect where and how he has grown in this industry. We both worked for Big Alcohol before. We have a shared past in that matter, and I honestly don't want to take anything else away from it. Lucas or Luke, should I call you Lucas or Luke? Because I've always done both, and I'd never know which one to do. I'll go with Lucas. Lucas, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and let them know a little bit more about who you are, where you come from, and what we're doing.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Nick. Really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Super stoked to be here. I am Lucas Plant, as Nick said. My background is all things culinary. My first restaurant job, I was 11 years old. My mom was a career waitress to put herself through art school. And so I was earning paychecks working in a kitchen at 11. Wow. It progressed from there. And all things culinary. My life has veered off in different directions, but it's always brought me back to the restaurants. Became, that's all I did, lived, ate, and breathed back of house for years. And then I was working at a restaurant out here in Portland, Oregon, and was just, I realized from the past, while I was in the kitchen, I was looking through the past and just watching the bartenders at work. And I was like, that's really what I want to be doing. I want to be interacting, the alchemy, everything about it, the pace, the hospitality, the customer interaction, the liquid ingredients, the precision, everything about it, I was just enthralled with. So I would take my nights, the 2 nights off I had a week from the kitchen, and being the crazy person that I am, I'd be staging behind the bar under Mr. Brandon Weiss for those 2 nights a week. That's really how I started cutting my teeth. I had some bartending jobs before that, all on the East Coast, some rock and roll venues and what have you, but nothing to the caliber that I was about to enter. And then I just, became all obsessed with that and, fell in love with the industry, did that for a good amount of years. Founded a company, a cocktail barwares company, which really kind of gave me a taste for sales and development and things like that. And while doing that, I ended up wear many hats. I ended up going over to Southern Glazers, representing Diageo and Moet Hennessy for a number of years. Of course, you and I had many fun times during those that tenure. And then from there, that kept going, and my eyes started kind of wandering over to the THC beverage world. That industry, that facet of the cannabis industry was really in its infancy at that point. It still kind of is. I fell in love with terpenes. And I started, I got a job being as a beverage specialist for a company called True Terpenes. And they supply flavorings, different terps and what have you for all facets of the cannabis industry, but not so much the beverage world, as that was, that's still fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
Really cut my teeth with them on this side of the fence. And yeah, then now I full on develop THC beverages. I'm no longer with them, still very
Mm-hmm.
good friends with that whole team. But now I help multiple clients take their THC, mostly in the hemp realm, being, quote unquote, federally legal, their
Yeah.
beverage concepts from concept to reality. Formulation, flavor building, co-packing, supply chain logistics, even all the way down to distribution.
Yeah, man, you are wearing a lot of hats because just hearing the raw materials, the logistics, the co-packing, like I had an anxiety attack on the inside hearing those words. Working with liars and the way that we're growing right now, um, it's not that different as far as like those types of certain stressors that come with the new type of work. I would like to ask you a question before we get into the meat and bones of the episode. A lot of the audience isn't going to understand what terpenes are.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain what terpenes are, what they do, how they're derived to the audience so that they can get a better understanding of where we're going to go with this episode?
Absolutely. Especially those viewers that are in the culinary world, in the spirits world, they spend time behind the bar. You've all worked with
Mm-hmm.
terpenes, even if you're not familiar with it. When you express an orange peel, a lemon peel, those oils that come out, granted, they're quote unquote essential oils, but they're compounds of terpenes. Every everything in the botanical realm has
Mm-hmm.
terpenes. Lavender, the relaxing aspect of lavender is a combination of terpenes, the primary terpene being linalool, that really drives that relaxation in the brain. So all things botanical in nature have terpenes, whether it be to attract or repel. And that's really as simple as I can get. Grab a rosemary sprig, rub it on your fingers, take a whiff. That's a combination of
Terpenes.
terpenes.
Right on. So it's a biological attractant and defense mechanism
Could
that's
be,
naturally
yeah, could be.
produced.
It
Okay.
says "stay the heck away," or it says "hey, come over here,"
Right on.
and that's really that's what it is, and it hit me like a ton of bricks that's really what I was after for a very long time, and that's what I loved working with was those flavors or I'm sorry, those aromas. One of the greatest
Mm.
things is riding my motorcycle around Sobeys Island here in Portland during the late spring, summer when the berry fields are going and all the flowers are going, the smells in the air, through your helmet as you're doing like 70 miles an hour on a back road. Those are terps.
Oh
And
man.
it's amazing. And relating those to flavor, I've been told numerous times like, oh, they're for aroma, they're for, function and aroma. They're not for flavor. But I kind of flip that whole thing on its head. Like they're for flavor too. They're what we
Yeah.
use in the culinary world.
Yeah. Right on. Thanks for explaining that. I know the audience is going to appreciate it because now when I'm riding, I have the top down or I'm on my bike out in the back roads in Virginia and I smell wildflowers. I'm gonna understand that better. Also, I
Yeah,
love the fact that we are attracting people to the bar by spraying terpenes across drinks, which is exactly what they would do in nature to get pollinators.
that's
So
it,
people,
man.
you're now bumblebees, people, or honeybees. All right. So you've got a really, really interesting career currently and ahead of you. I do want to take most of this episode to talk about where you are and where this category is growing and how merges may or may not happen. We'll get into all
Yeah.
of that as we progress through the episode. Um, the first thing I want to talk about is functionals in the non-out space, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because there are founders or ambassadors or interest holders that feel that functional beverages, meaning anything with nootropics or minerals, so forth, things like lion's mane or reishi or so forth, even ashwagandha. They feel that functionals do not belong in the non-op space because they do alter from whatever perceived reality is, right?
Yeah.
And I want to get your take on it because in the U.S. functional beverage marketplace right now, we're looking at 4.5% growth from 2022 to 2027, and it's supposed to hit $60 billion. Energy drinks being the largest part of that, obviously, like soft drinks being the largest part of what we sit in. Um, and then sports drinks being about 12 billion after that. So how do functionals sit, and would you consider terpenes functional?
I would certainly consider terpenes functional. In a different sense, they get kind of muted going through the GI. They're primarily an olfactory. And
Hmm.
that's in the cannabis realm, when you get certain strains and you smell them, like Granddaddy Purple is a great one. You smell those heavy. Um, dare I say, indica terpenes that let your brain know right away, like, hey, I'm going to be relaxing for a little while. I'm going to be sitting down. You have things like, think about another great way to look at it is like your home cleaners. So many all natural
Mm,
home cleaners are so citrus heavy and whatnot. Those are the terpenes because although they do sanitize and they do disinfect, your brain instantly goes to clean, awake, alert. That's really one of the beauties of terpenes, and what they really do is your brain starts the journey before your body does. So I think they're definitely functional. It's just in a little bit of a different context. They're not going
right.
to really alter your physical state. It's going to really drive you to a different place mentally.
Right on, right on. It's crazy that you said that because I have a little bit of synesthesia when it comes to flavors, and we've talked about that in the past extensively. And you hear purple, blue, dark red. That's resting. Think about red wine. You hear what you just said, cleaners, or if we take it into the wine realm, Sauvignon Blancs, mineral-driven Chardonnays, so forth. All those bright yellow, light green, white scents, and it's kind of the same thing when I smell different terpenes, little limonene, pinene, so forth. It kind of does the same thing. Like if I smell pinene, I get super excited because I relate that back to my childhood as a kid, because it meant that my dad wasn't on the road and we were going to go out to the woods and go hiking, right?
Yeah.
So when I smell pinene, that is the immediate trigger is woods hiking. I get to see my dad. Like that's it does something to me like that.
Hmm.
Where if I smell those darker scents, those deeper scents, those musk to dark berry scents, I typically have a tendency to be like, okay, maybe a backyard cookout, maybe sitting down to watch a movie, maybe spreading that blanket under the pine tree to kind of chill next to the lake. It does that mentally when I think about these colors. Is that something safe to say is kind of common through terpenes?
It really is. It's a lot. You look at a lot of if you start doing some deep digging into terpenes, start getting like doing online educational courses, looking at those resources that are available from different studies and what have you. They all have a color
Mhm.
wheel.
Oh wow.
Every terpene is
Okay.
pretty much related to a color wheel, so it's really symbiotic to visual as well, and that's why you have names like Granddaddy Purple and things like that. So
Okay.
so really, that's spot on, man.
Hmm. That's interesting. I'd really like to see this done with um, like an impairment exercise, like maybe somebody that's visually impaired or audibly impaired, and how they relate to the
Yeah.
sense. Like I think that'd be a really cool study. I'm going to mark that because I want to come back and think about that later. um, uh, wait a minute. I just made more work for myself.
But I'll help you with
So,
this one. That's great.
yeah, actually, ladies and gentlemen, I think we just birthed a seminar for the MJ Biz conference next year or the year after. That would be so rad. Anyways, let's get back over what we're talking about today. Um, So when we look at functionals, when we look at terpene laced beverages, I don't like the word lace there because lace has a negative
Infused.
connotation. Infused beverages. Obviously, I mean, when I crack this, which I'm going to, powered by Liars for the first entire season, I smell blood orange, stewed rhubarb, the classic grapes of anything sparkling wine, and then the bitter comes in with the pithiness and the grapefruit. All those things, terpenes. So when we think about um, cannabis, THC, CBD, CBG, and all the other things that I'm starting to understand a little better. What do you think the growth potential is for these types of beverages um, when it comes to the on-premise? Like when we look at on-premise activity, and for those of you watching, on-premise would be anywhere that's a communal space for the public to join. So it could be pubs, lounges, um, public events where you may have a ticket that's still considered on premise because you're buying the product to consume at the place of purchase, right? So, what do you think the growth potential and the evolution of the on premise is first?
I think we're going to look back in 10 years and just go, holy cow, that was a whirlwind. I think they're going to absolutely explode, and they already start. They're starting to in states like Minnesota, being one state that they're on the forefront of THC. Of course, it's hemp-derived THC, which makes it "quote unquote" federally legal. They're
Mm-hmm.
already allowed in the on-premise. So bars, it just really varies with insurance companies that these different bars, venues, what have you have. They're seeing
Mm-hmm.
tremendous success because you see a lot of bars kind of, the NA options, my least favorite term probably is mocktail, but,
Yeah,
seeing
you're
that
in the right.
section
You're
on
in the right
menus.
church for that.
Yeah, every time I see it, I cringe. I'm like, don't put down somebody who doesn't want to drink. And that's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Um, the people, the low to no consumer base is growing so drastically, but they still want an experience. They still want something that could promote socialness and what have you. And that's exactly what these beverages are doing. And they're giving a really amazing, most times, dare I say, healthy option. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and even the people who, but like myself, I still imbibe in alcohol, although a lot less. If I
Mm-hmm.
have one THC drink, I won't touch anything spirited for the rest of the night because my brain's already in a different place, and that's where I want it to stay. I feel much more positive. Sales are ramping up at a really great pace. The flavors are getting more and more complex. You're really starting to see, whereas it was, a lot, the consumer outlook is really shifting away from, it used to be like, oh great, I'm going to have to drink another damn lemonade or something like that because that's all THC
Yeah.
beverages were. Now with the different emulsions and different infusion methods to get the THC in these beverages, the flavors are getting so much more complex, and you're starting to really see some beautiful products out there. So I think the sky's the limit. I mean, certain states, you can walk into stadiums to watch an NFL game and now have THC drinks.
Oh
Um,
wow, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Okay.
it's already happening, and
Hmm.
I think the sky's the limit. I think we're going to see a drastic uptick. There's already a lot of very large players in the beer space, spirit space, and what have you that are heavily exploring it because it's already taken market share.
Well, that was going to be my next question is how is this affecting market share of traditional spirits and traditional ferments? Because of you can only consume so much liquid in a night,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, if are these things going to be able to play together? Like, am I going to be able to have a 2.5 or 1.5 milligram THC CBD beverage and have a 3.5 or 4% beer? Am I going to want that? Like, are they going to be able to coexist, or like some of the people that were thinking about this 10 or 12 years ago, where they started doing home brews and they started infusing things on their own, are these things that like a cross-pollinated green dragon, a legend of the green dragon, for instance, or if we're looking at green dragon beer, are these types of things we might see, or is you think it'll be more delineated of here's some non-alcoholic products we can put soluble dust, for lack of better description, into it and turn it into a functional beverage in what some again might see as a not true non-alcoholic. It's a non-alcoholic, but it's still altering in some way, shape, or form. Where do you think the
Hmm.
boundaries might end up being drawn, or do you think that the boundaries aren't going to be set for a number of years?
I think there's going to be a very hard line drawn between anything alcoholic, anything over in the functional, THC, whatever, even CBD. TTB is really going to, keep the brakes pushed on that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe post federal legalization, when that happens, we could start seeing, it meshed a little bit. But I think they're really going to stay, with a line in the middle. I think they're going to play in the same sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. But I really just think that the consumers are kind of going to want one or the other. You're always going to have a consumer, you're always going to have somebody that's, looking for that crossfade, as they call it, looking to get a little bit more, a little bit more kind of out there than they would just from one THC drink. Excuse me. But I think really, we're seeing a lot of it veering towards wellness, and that's not really hand
Yeah.
in hand with the wellness movement that's happening right now. Like a lot of these drinks are really starting to, the focus is getting to clean ingredients. Like I'll use organic cane sugar in some of my formulations, but for the most part, like I'll use monk fruit, and the consumers are really
Okay.
noticing this. Those kind of trends. They're looking at the ingredient lists. They're looking at the nutritional
Yeah.
panels, because it's really tapping into the health conscious mind, and I think that's going to keep that line drawn between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think you're going to see, somebody going out with their friends, one person drinking one person drinking another. Uh, yeah, that's my take on it, and I think that
Okay.
could really be a good thing. I think it'll really give a level playing field to a lot of the amazing brands that are out there now that really have no relevance in the spirited world.
Yeah.
It's gonna keep them on an even playing field, and that's what I think, and that's kind of my take on it.
Well, there's two things that you mentioned that I want to touch on. One is wellness. I definitely want to touch on that, and the other is reading the labels. And I think they kind of go hand in hand. But I'm going to mention the reading the labels part first, because when you look at a non-alcoholic beverage, that we've got adjacents, we've got what the dry atlas refers to as novels. So that'd be things like Seedlip or um, uh, one of the ones out of the UK that don't mirror a traditional beverage. You've got adjacents like Liars that have categorical um, references that they build from, but we don't call, we being Liars don't call, like if we have the American malt, which is American whiskey adjacent, we don't call it bourbon because bourbon
Yeah.
is a protected word, right? We don't call it tequila because tequila is a protected place and a protected product, right? So um, the reason I'm saying this is because when you look at the caloric value of things and you look at the ABV of things, which is very easy to find out, I think you're going to start seeing a shift where ABVs are going to be listed in certain aspects. Once you convert your brain over to metric, it's super easy to figure out what an ABV of a drink is. And then in addition to that, the caloric value of things. Like if you look at a traditional pina colada is somewhere around 900 calories. I mean, that's two meals, and
Yeah.
anywhere from 700 to 900 calories. But if you look at a non-alcoholic version, and I'm going to say Liars because that's who's sponsoring us, because it makes a delicious pina colada, and you break it down in their formula of doing a pina colada, you can have six of those before you even touch the caloric value of a
Hmm.
traditional one. Now, just think about that if you use dust or maybe top it up with a little sparkling berry flavored THC beverage. Like it changes the aspect just enough that inclusive hospitality is truly inclusive at that point because everyone is having their drinks their ways in a communal space where nobody feels left out, right? I have friends that are Cali sober, I have friends that are sober, and I have friends that are not sober. Um, and often the Cali sobers will come over to sober and just enjoy the non-alcoholic drink as is. But I know for a fact that they'd much rather have something that's in their wheelhouse. And there's no reason. It's just like empathy or compassion. There's not a finite bucket of these things. Like there's enough to go around for everyone. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there. The other thing that I just said was wellness. And what are some of the things you see changing in the wellness field when it comes to functionals in the non-alc space?
Seeing a crazy amount of focus going over to nootropics.
Okay.
And especially with the relation to the feelings there's multiple alcohol substitute beverages, alcohol replacement beverages that are up there now. I actually have a couple of them sitting in my fridge that's what they're heavily promoting. They're heavily promoting the float like alcohol without the feeling the next day and things like that.
Oh,
I
okay.
think we're and it's on their own. Like they're amazing. The feeling is absolutely great. I had a couple of a particular brand the other night. I was like, man, this is delicious. Made with like really, really good, very fresh tasting purees and what have you. And even after 3 of them, I was like, I got to sit down for a minute. So,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, and
Okay.
that was, no alcohol, no THC. And I think we're going to start really seeing a shift towards that as more studies get done, because that's still a very new side of the market, very new. They're very new ingredients for the mainstream. I think another thing, excuse me, we're going to really start seeing is phasing out of heavily synthesized ingredients in a lot of these products. A great market to look at for that is the physical fitness market, where a lot of these compounds are so heavily synthesized with the creatines and what have you, like all these different even down to like branched chain amino acids, things like that. Like there's a lot of healthy options, but there's some that are just garbage. There's a lot of heavily synthesized, and then you really start breaking down the sub ingredients with all the different sucrose and all this stuff. I think
Yeah.
we're going to start seeing a very big shift towards natural versions of that, coming
Okay.
directly from nature, utilizing whole ingredients. Excuse me, in the cannabis and hemp world, it's full spectrum. You use the whole plant. I think we're really going to
Okay.
start seeing that more than just one uh, extracted compound of one plant. If that one extracted
Yeah.
compound can provide this value, this benefit, the whole plant is there for a reason. What can the whole plant do? And I think that's
Yeah.
really what we're going to start seeing.
Yeah. I love what you just said because we discard so much of something that shouldn't really be discarded, right? Like carrots are a perfect example. You can do so much with carrot greens, even though they're bitter as hell. You can do so many things with
Yeah.
them. And that's just a small fraction of what the audience might be able to grab from that. Yeah, I've been on the BCAA train. I've been on the creatine train. I've been on all those trains. And honestly, at the end of the day, whole foods cooked the right way with the right things is usually what makes me feel the best.
Yeah.
It's, I spend a lot of time on the road. I'm never really anywhere for more than a month for the past 2 years. And with the exception of Thailand, I cook wherever we go. And being able to do that and being able to cook whole foods 90% of the time that we're on the road, I felt wonderful. But when I get into a place where everything's heavily processed, especially the grocery stores here in America, not all of them, but a lot of them, I can't find items that I can find in other countries that make me feel as good as I do when I'm on the road. And that's no stab at our grocery system, but it kind of sort of is at the same time. Speaking of grocery stores and segueing over into evolving marketplaces, before we get into the off premise, I do want to take a break because you know who likes breaks, Lucas?
Who does?
Liars Non-Alcoholic. They love a break because it means a commercial. So, ladies and gents, welcome to the Nest. I'm Nick Crutchfield. He's Lucas Plant. We'll be back in just a minute.
The Liar's non-alcoholic pink spritz.
I taste the world through rose-colored glasses.
Delicious. Stay spirited. Make it a Liar's.
Hey, all you songbirds, welcome back to the Nest here at Tailfeather, powered by Liars Non-Alcoholic. I'm Nick Crutchfield, your guest. Not your guest, your host, you silly goose. And that is Lucas Plant over yonder. We are talking about functional beverages. We're talking about THC, CBD, hemp-derived, of course, because that's what's federally legal. Beverages, and we're talking about the evolving landscapes of, well, now we're going to talk about the evolving landscapes of the off-premise. We'll bounce back over to the on-premise in just a minute. When it comes to the off-premise, and for the audience out there, the off-premise essentially means I'm buying it and taking it somewhere else to consume it. That is in alcohol and other items that cannot be legally consumed on-premise. So when you say off-premise, when we say off-premise, we mean bottle shops, we mean grocery stores. And yes, I realize some grocery stores have cafes. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about mom and pop shops. We're talking about all-purpose supermarkets, so forth and so on. All right, so let's get to the off-premise. You mentioned Minnesota earlier. I think I remember hearing something about the grocery laws changing when it comes to beverages there about a year or two ago. What is shaping differently in your view in a positive manner when it comes to the non-alc and functional spaces in the off-premise markets?
Options, the options, getting back into, like we were talking about earlier a little bit, the complexity and how like the beverages are maturing. Think about when we were a lot younger, which is a long time ago, going into a liquor store and your NA section was 2-liter bottles of soda, ginger ale, and Dayglow lemon juice and sour mix and stuff like that. Those days are they're gone, and it's completely evolved now. And in the state of Minnesota, well, there's a couple other states as well now that are following suit, and it's amazing to be a part of this and see it. The NA sections are getting so much more substantial, where you actually have to sit and look at all of your options and really kind of digest it and figure out what you want. It's becoming... even in the past, I think it's been 11 months, maybe a little over 11 months that THC drinks have been legal in Minnesota, excuse me, which is where I work out of now with my company BKR. We're focused on the Minnesota market because it was the first for the hemp-derived THC beverages to be legal in stores like that. And it's really to be a part of that and watching it grow to help shape it and really take a step back and observe it as well for going into other states has been absolutely amazing. And in the beginning, when our hemp-derived and all of the other amazing brands out there, when their beverages or the hemp-derived beverages were going into liquor stores and even, I think even Whole Foods now, places like that.
Oh, wow.
You saw a lot of hesitance, and you'd see a small end cap. You'd see, a small little table off to the side that had 4 or 5, 6 different options. And it was, some pretty subpar marketing, handwritten signs and what have you, a bunch of 4-packs on a table. So it really wasn't even appealing. And even in the past, one of the biggest players, excuse me, in Minnesota, Total Wine and Spirits, THC drinks they're ramping up to be a very big seller for them. You're seeing whole aisles get dedicated now. You're seeing, you'll still see end caps, but those are just the brands doing promos, just like in the beer and wine and spirits world. And you're starting to see these aisles just growing and growing and growing and growing as the offerings grow. And you're really starting to get seeing options for your different style of drinks, different flavors. It's really maturing, which is awesome to see. Originally, you would just see, a bunch of lemonades and some seltzers. because those are really two of the biggest, easiest things to get out in the market. You have your
Mm-hmm.
lemonades because, citrus being a bitter blocker, and a lot of the earlier emulsions of THC for these drinks were extremely bitter. So that's why people were like, all right,
Oh,
lemonade and sugar, going to be the easiest thing to put together. Going to be one of the most shelf stable things to put together because the preservative of the citric acid, yada, yada, yada. Man, now you're seeing really complex beverages coming out. You're seeing beverages hitting your wine consumers. You're seeing these THC beverages hitting your beer consumers, with a lot of heavy emphasis on hops. You're seeing, uh, you know, RTD, like cocktails, old fashions, but they're no ABV and they're 5% THC.
oh wow.
Um, yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So it's happening very quick. So that's it's hard to to keep up with everything, but that's what we're seeing right now. Um, Expansion. The market is growing. The market is growing. The consumers are growing as the stigma fades. Originally, even when liquor stores, grocery stores, what have you, were getting these products in, you see very large uh, numbers in the delivery market because people still were a little hesitant about going out, and the stigma was still there with THC. You're really starting to see that fade, and they're just becoming a very everyday item. And it's amazing to see the NA sections are absolutely booming. Entire aisles of offerings like Liars and these beautiful crafted non-alcoholic spirits and expressions, and then right next to them THC. So it's just a natural fit that they're going to start going together
Yeah.
in people's home bars and what have you.
Yeah, it's almost like a trinity's being formed in this space now. You've got your traditional beverages, your functionals. I'm just going to lump everything into functionals for the ease of this episode. And then you've got your non-outs, and they kind of all can sort of overlay just enough that they all kind of make sense playing in the sand together. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a pretty positive way to look at it. Um, I do, and I love the growth trends. I love the fact that you're looking at an aisle spread, like you go from a table to an end cap to an aisle, and then the end caps being the features now. Like for those of you that don't work in the marketing field, when you graduate from an end cap to the aisle, it's a big deal. And then when you graduate from the aisle to an end cap feature, that's an even bigger deal because that means somebody already knows enough about you to understand that you're both in the aisle and on the end cap. Like that's a major deal in the marketing world and the sales world. That's positive growth. I love that.
Yeah.
When I do want to swing this back over to the on-premise, just in regard to how communal and hospitality spaces are going to reshape. We've kind of touched on a little bit. I want to dive a little deeper. We can't mention these two things without talking about distribution. Excuse me. I did not expect to go this long into the episode, but there's so much good things happening in this talk that I don't want to cut the listeners off from stuff that they could benefit from hearing. Um, so I do want to talk about distribution just briefly after we talk about on-premise and reshaping. So when we look at communal spaces being public spaces where people can get together to share ideas, share food, share drink, one of those great equalizer kind of aspects of life. How are functionals, whether it's nootropics or THC, CBD, hemp-derived, obviously, non-alcs, so forth. How do you see, because you're on the road just enough that I think that you're going to have a pretty significant viewpoint on this. How do you see these places evolving? Because millennials, and I believe they've now tagged the Zennials and the group after Zennials is alphas. I don't know how we get there, but we're there. Um, I'm suspect of anybody that calls himself an alpha. The How do you think the communal spaces are going to evolve, especially with our categories? Because the poll that I read about 2 months ago said that alphas Zennials prefer to view the world through mobile device or augmented reality than through actual life. So, not that that's separated from actual life, but to Gen Xers, it's a very different way to view the world, right? So, how do you think those spaces, hospitality, communal spaces, are going to evolve now that we have these new categories burgeoning?
Oh man, I hope I answer this kind of to what you're asking. I see. You're referring to the on premise, right?
Yeah.
I see it becoming extremely experiential, especially with
Mhm.
the newness of the THC beverage, the functional beverage, and the newness of this market, and the younger generations really not. And I say younger because I'm almost 50. They are so heavily shifting away from alcohol for the most part that these beverages are becoming a part of their experiences, whether it be, Coachella was just covered with these brands.
Oh, wow.
You know, events like that, experiences like that, a lot of, EDMs and what have you. It's really online sales are through the roof. If you don't have influence behind your brand, you're going to get left behind. It's just speaking to those younger generations, but then it's kind of a double sided coin because you still need to appeal to the generations who really don't. That doesn't resonate with them, whether in the
Hmm.
store. So I think it's going to be a really beautiful synergy of old school and new school for a long time. And excuse me, I think it'll definitely start shifting over. Uh, Towards the new school, if you will, like the heavy online presence, the influence,
Hmm.
very heavy experiential selling, if you will. I think we're going to
Hmm.
see both, but I think it's really going to start going to the newer version, if you will, over the next say 10 years.
Right on. It's going to be interesting to see for sure because we're looking at like how do bars evolve and stay alive? How to like it reminds me a lot of like '93 to '95, right? Like we'd go to house parties, we'd hang out a lot, especially in my younger years in college, '95 to late '90s, and we look at how we would kind of do house parties and then sometimes go to the pub, or we'd
Yeah.
go like it reminds me a lot of that era of my life, and I'm
Hmm.
wondering if pub life will change a little bit, and if like these multi-use spaces like a Meow Wolf, not to call any brands, I'm just giving a concept, like an experiential museum or experiential bars or like the places you might find in Vegas will start to grow a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. Now
What I
that
do know, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, it
No,
just
no,
got
no.
my. I just kind of had
Yeah.
like a moment there that I really taking a step back from what I just said. I think we're going to start besides the experiential, we're going to start seeing these beverages be part more of active lifestyle events and living that
Mm.
kind of life and going and not so much sitting down at a pub. The focus used to be sit down at a pub, have some drinks, pardon my French, but get a
Hmm.
little pissed. And then that was the night. But now these beverages are starting to, resonating with the health conscious and what have you. They're going camping, they're going hiking, they're not
Yeah.
hindering any of these experiences. And in some cases, they're elevating them. So I think and I hope that they're going to really start leading towards a much more, helping people with these awesome activities that aren't just sitting in a pub. I think we're going to see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. More of that like well, I'm not going to say SoCal, but more of that West Coast life versus an East Coast life.
Yeah.
I've lived on both coasts, so I think unless you've kind of experienced both coasts pretty extensively, you don't understand they're very different. Like in East Coast, you're like, let's drive 2 hours up to the Appalachians and go camping for a couple of nights. There's a very specific set of people that are willing to do that. Where out here, you'd be like, like if I was still in San Diego, I'd be like, let's go out to the BLM and camp for 2 days in the desert. I can name 10 people off the top of my head, be like, hell yeah, let's go.
Yep.
And it'd be a 45-minute drive. So it's I agree with you there. The one thing that both the on and off premise share, and this is what I was touching on a minute ago, is distribution. And that's because we're looking at THC and CBD that's derived from hemp, which is very different than THC and CBD in a different manner. If I'm not incorrect, if I am, please correct me there. One is federally legal due to the Farm Act, I believe, and the other is not federally illegal, but it has been rescheduled and it's going through some stuff in Congress. When we look at distribution models, and for those of you listening and watching, distribution of everything happens for everything that you consume. A CPG is distributed, period. Clothes are distributed, period. Comes from somewhere, hits a port in a big box. That big box gets broken down into smaller boxes, put on big box on trucks or trains, and then moved around the country and put into smaller boxes until you take it home to your box, which would be your house. So distribution of these products has to happen. Where is it now? Where is it going?
Really great question, and yeah, it's very interesting because if you really look at the basics of it, cannabis and hemp are the same plant. It's just like you said, the Farm Bill made hemp federally legal, while quote unquote cannabis, it's a whole big mess that hopefully will get sorted. But in the meantime, we can charge on hemp drinks, which is, that at the end of the day, I at least feel that hemp D9, cannabis D9, THC is THC. You're gonna get the effects. It's just very interesting to see that right now. But that's probably a whole nother podcast right there.
Yeah, that's definitely an episode. Maybe we'll do that in season 2. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as distribution, it's really a beautiful thing to see, because beautiful and frightening, because you're starting to see, like, I work actively with Johnson Brothers right now on distribution in Minnesota, soon to be, I believe, a couple other states on hemp-derived THC beverages. These very large players, there's interest. If every single distributor is poised to jump in on it, if they say they're not, they're lying. It's about to be a major part of the industry, and some distribution companies are getting, a head start on it, such as Johnson Brothers. Their artisan division, which handles their craft beer. So their craft beer division is now their craft beer / THC division.
Okay, that's interesting. That's really interesting, and it's interesting that you said that if they say they're not, they're lying, because if you look at history, and I saw this thing this morning on TV when I was watching the news about how we think things are new, but then when we look at it in a historical lens, we understand that it started somewhere else. And it was done somewhere else. We're just reshaping it and perfecting it. So if you look at the non-alc category, you go back to the 1820s, which is where we are 200 years later, and you look at the perfection of the continuous still, right? That technology was being developed, being perfected, and not until the mid-19 or 1830s was it actual. I mean, it was doing better, but it wasn't perfected until like 30 to 33. Fast forward 200 years, and we're exactly where we are right now. We're perfecting the models of non-alc, and we're perfecting the models of nootropics and functionals and so forth and so on. The tech will catch up to the category just as it did then. And if you go back 100 years, roughly, we'll go back 90 years, you're looking at the end of Prohibition, the starting of distribution of alcohol across the U.S. in a different manner than it was before. And you could say the exact same thing then. If you didn't think they were going to distribute alcohol, you're sadly mistaken, because it's going to happen. So it's really mesmerizing, and I will beg everyone watching, when you think an idea is brand new and you see a trend that's brand new, search the historical relevance of what it is that's being created, and look at the trends that followed thereafter, and I think you'll find a much more clear picture. And this is where I'm going to draw a real clear picture for the minds of our audience, because Lucas, it is time to throw you on the grill. I've got to get some little fun noises made for when I do that. Like, meh, meh, meh. So the grill is the time when I'm going to give you an impromptu question, give you a couple minutes to think about it, not even minutes, a couple of seconds to think about it, and just give the audience what your answer is. Sometimes it's what your last song at last call with your last drink. Sometimes um, it could be a myriad of things. What are you going to bike to, so forth. The grill today is going to be, you're going to have a meal. The meal's with a musician, dead or alive. What are you eating? Where is it? And what are you drinking? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go.
Oh, um, I can go back in time, correct?
Yes, and this is not your last meal. You're not dying. This is just a meal somewhere with someone. What are you eating? What are you drinking? Has to be a musician, though.
Action Bronson, El Bulli.
Wow. Holy crap. You all will be wheeled out of there. Okay. All right. Tell me well, you can't tell me what you're going to eat because that's a prefix and it's going to be amazing no matter what. What are you
Yeah.
drinking with that meal? Like what are some of the things you can foresee being served beverage wise at this meal?
Their take on if it was in the cards, their take on cannabis cocktails,
Okay.
along with some damn beautiful natural wines.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, you got my wheels spinning right now. Holy crap. Oh my God. Man, I had another place's version of their strawberry once. And if it's anything close to what I believe you did, I can't even imagine what anything else would be. Like, it's just, that's really good answer. Did not expect that. Action Bronson, very, very solid choice. I like that guy a lot. Very, very cool. All right, let's go ahead and go to the part where I'm going to leave you alone. You tell people where they can find you, social channels if you like, what you're working on, things you're excited about, life in general.
Yeah.
Go ahead and go. Yeah.
I'm not really on social media. I'm pretty much way behind the scenes right now, working for a lot of brands, quietly in the background, bringing their products to life. The main thing, I just recently released a THC drink. You can order it online called Happy Duck out of Minnesota, affiliated with Grey Duck Spirits. Just helped formulate and create their line of low dose THC. Well, there's a 5 milligram and a 10 milligram. Tied in with the Minnesota Vikings and the Minnesota Twins. So there's some sports references in there. But you can order those online through our company, bkrbrands.com. That's where you can go, and since it's federally legal, you can order these drinks and have them shipped anywhere in the country as long as someone 21 and up signs for them. And yeah, I'm mostly in Minnesota right now. Back and forth between there and the West Coast, developing several other beverages. You could always find me on LinkedIn, and if you know Nick, reach out to Nick. He'll know how to get me.
Indeed.
Yeah, and with the way this industry is going, and as I've grown and whatnot, I've taken a much more backseat role, a much more kind of creative, and let everyone else kind of take the front. But if anybody has any interest in THC beverages, THC questions, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And I'd be more than happy to answer questions. And most times you'll find me with my boots on, my feet soaked in the back of a manufacturing hub somewhere in Minnesota, observing a couple 100,000 gallons of liquid going in cans and making sure it goes off without a hitch.
I love that for you so much. This has been a great conversation. Hope you're getting ready to enjoy the weather and the spring down in Portland and get on your bike a bit. Looking forward to getting back to the East Coast and getting on mine. I am Nick Crutchfield. You're watching Tail Feather powered by Liars, not alcoholic. Welcome to the nest, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. We know that you could be anywhere. We understand that time is the only true currency. Until next time, my songbirds, Nick Crutchfield, Lucas Plant. See ya.
Alexa, show me how to make a cocktail without alcohol.
Sure.